Welcome back, everyone. We have with us our next guest, Julie Traxler. Julie and Corey Harris co-founded SB Pace, a firm with a passion for small businesses. Together, they wrote the best-selling book, Seriously? Now What? A Small Business Guide to Disaster Preparedness. She's also a co-host of a top-rated business podcast and weekly live radio show, and have been listed on the Brainz Magazine Global 500 list, which recognizes entrepreneurial success and dedication to helping others. They have published 200 plus articles helping entrepreneurs and have multiple digital courses. And today she's going to walk us through why entrepreneurs fail. Welcome, Julie. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having me, Diane. I'm excited to chat with you and talk to your followers.
Looking forward to learning from you, and the floor is yours.
All right, great. So today I am going to walk through why entrepreneurs fail. Let's pull up the presentation here and go into full screen mode. Okay, so why entrepreneurs fail. This is where, all right. So SB Pace, we're, as Diana mentioned, a boutique coaching and consulting firm that's focused exclusively on small businesses. And typically we define small business for the purposes of our business. 20 employees or less are most common to be working with people or helping entrepreneurs and small business owners that are 10 employees or less. We've got over 40 years of entrepreneurial experience working with small business owners and coaching and consulting. Our number one core value is we don't sell you shit you don't need, because we completely understand that every dollar matters when you're running a small business. And we specialize in taking businesses from owner-driven to process-driven, which means long-term success for entrepreneurs. So why entrepreneurs fail? I'm going to cover 6 big things here: no plan, weak foundation, cash flow, market to sales process, over planning, and owner driven. Now, all of these are big reasons why we see entrepreneurs failing early on in their entrepreneurial journey. All right, so no plan. As you can see, this lovely quote by Benjamin.
We don't see your slides.
You don't?
We only see the first page, why entrepreneurs fail.
Resume share. What do you see now?
The first page, the title, why entrepreneurs fail.
Why? All right, let me try this. Let me reshare it. I'm not sure what happened there. Thanks for letting me know.
Yes, perfect. Now I see the second slide.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So why entrepreneurs fail. We're going to cover the buckets of no plan, weak foundation, cash flow, market to sales process, over planning, and owner driven. And I'm wondering if when I switch the slide, if that's when it, there. Okay. Did it switch?
Yes.
All right. So you can see this wonderful quote by Benjamin Franklin: by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So a business plan. So this is probably the most hotly debated topic that we get into with entrepreneurs. But it's really only people who don't have a business plan are typically advocating for the need to not have one. They don't understand that a business plan is really essential for your business, because it lays the foundation for everything that you're doing. And people tend to think of business plans as a create it and then just set it and forget it. You don't need to look at it again. They also tend to think that if you're not going for funding, you don't need a business plan. So if I'm not looking for investors, or I'm not trying to get a loan from the bank, I don't need a business plan. That's so fundamentally untrue. A business plan gives you a roadmap that guides your business for a successful future. So it has your financials, it talks about your core values, the strengths and weaknesses of your business, and it really lays the foundation for what you're going to do. And we always recommend to our clients that they take that business plan and they look at it regularly. So maybe it's every 6 months, certainly at least every 12 months, to continue to look at the vision and the future of the business. It's a strategy document. It's not just a create it and don't look at it again. It's called a plan because you're supposed to execute against it. And we consider a business plan, lack of one, to be one of the top reasons that businesses fail, because they're not working against a defined strategy if they don't have one. Next is a weak foundation. So you can't build a great building on a weak foundation. You must have a solid foundation if you're going to have a strong superstructure. And we love to see strong businesses. Strong superstructure for a small business starts with a foundation. So if you just think about building a house, right, you're putting in that ground floor foundation, and then you're building everything on top of it. You don't put the roof on your house first, and people love to look at that, the sales piece, right? But the sales is really the roof of your business. All of the other parts and pieces need to come first to build that strong business up so that you're poised for long-term success. That includes culture and core values. And a lot of entrepreneurs think that this is like the hokey part of a business, like this is sort of woo-woo and you don't need it. It's absolutely untrue. Your culture and core values are going to define how you do everything. We use culture and core values as the roadmap for every decision we make in our business. So if we're working with a potential client and we're talking about services they need, it all comes back to our core values. And one, wanting to have a really strong relationship with them, but also, do they really need this service? Is there somebody who can do it better than us? We're not interested in continuing to take money from small business owners just to line our pockets. That's just part of our foundation, and that has served us really well. So whatever the foundation of your business looks like, that's how you're going to build and make decisions. It's also having a process-driven business, right? It's really important to understand, even if you're a solopreneur, having processes in place will make your life easier. Everything that you can repeat, that you have documented, when you do get to the point that you can hire people, you already have your training materials present, because you can just give them your processes. And even if it's just this, high level outline of doing something, maybe it's your ordering process from vendors, or your pay process when you're paying, those types of things help build a strong business. There's having a strategic plan. So this is more than just your business plan. A strategic plan, or doing strategic planning for your business, is and for us, it's an annual activity. And most businesses that I've worked in, or small businesses that we've worked with, we recommend doing it annually, but reviewing it either monthly or quarterly. So we create a strategic plan, and then you break it down into quarterly pieces that you can deliver on quarterly, and then you're just continuing to check back. But you're also well aware that things come at us fast as small business owners. Things change quickly. If you just think about what happened in 2020, and you've got to be able to pivot quickly or make changes. And having a strategic plan that you can look at and figure out where you can make adjustments makes it that much easier for you to be successful. SWOT analysis is really just looking at your strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. And the way that we like to look at these is complete a SWOT analysis for your business. And if you're a solopreneur, really take into account yourself as an asset of the business, and look at those 4 core pieces: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and then prioritize them. Just pick the top 5 in each bucket, and then kind of pull together an action plan for it. This is a great way to continue to strengthen your business, and it makes you hyper aware when you look at that strength bucket of the strengths you have, knowing how to protect them and preserve them so that they continue to be a strength in your business. And then continuous improvement. We recommend that you it's just an hour a day. You don't have to think of continuous improvement as this big activity that happens. Honestly, let's look at your business and make a list of the things that you really dislike, things that aren't going well or that are overly hard, where there's friction and there shouldn't be, and then just decompose it to small bite-sized pieces that you can make changes at 5 minutes a day, or we take an hour a week. Every Thursday, 10 a.m., we do a continuous improvement meeting where we're literally just looking at one small piece of our business and how can we make that piece better. A continuous improvement is a huge benefit to building a strong business. All right. Cash flow, everybody's favorite topic. So here, just some quick pointers. Know your numbers. So unless you're depending entirely on luck, you have to know your numbers. And well, this one should be obvious. I can tell you, we had a client once who had been in business for 10 years and he had no idea what his numbers were. He literally didn't know if he was profitable or not because he was too afraid to look. So it seems like a very strange way to run a business, but it's not uncommon. It is not uncommon for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs to not know their numbers. So you might feel really uncomfortable with this aspect of the business. And if you do, hire some help, hire a fractional employee, get a CFO, or maybe just hire an accountant or a bookkeeper to help you look at it. Set benchmarks. So benchmarks are going to guide you. They're going to help you to find opportunities to improve profitability. Benchmarks are really key in the cash flow area. And then really looking at the next sale. You can't focus only on sales and the next client. You literally have to look at bigger picture than that. You can't be thinking where's the next dollar going to be coming from and you're chasing money in your business. You need to go back to that business plan, go back to that strategy and look at it that way to help with cash flow. And you need to be thinking long-term, right? So it can't be just in this moment, here and now. Your business will fail if all you're thinking about is today. If you're in survival mode all of the time, you're only going to be able to survive for so long, because that goes back to the benchmarks and knowing your numbers. And it's not just about profits. So a business without profits can survive for years, but business without cash flow is going to fail within months. You need to have cash flow. So figure out how to have cash flow running. And that goes back to all of the other things that are listed here. And just knowing positive cash flow is critical for your business success. Next reason entrepreneurs fail, the market to sales process. This is everybody's favorite area. Everybody loves market. Everybody wants to be a marketing person. And when people are struggling in their business, the first place they tend to look is sales. So they think, I need more sales. And almost always it is something that comes way before a sales. Unless somebody doesn't know how to close a deal, it's really more than sales. So market to sales process, we like to call it building your machine, right? So number one, define your market. You have to know who your ideal customer is. Who are you marketing to? How do you have a product market fit? And that could be a product or a service, right? How do you fit into the market? So understanding from a competitive standpoint, what are your competitors doing? What's the gap that you can fill? And how can you take that gap knowledge to market and carve out a piece for yourself? Keep it simple. We tend to overcomplicate. We think, oh, I need to be on every social media channel. I need to post a blog every day. I need to run paid ads. Fundamentally untrue. There's probably a minimum of 20 things you can do before you start running paid ads. And sometimes paid ads don't make sense if your price point is too low on your product. So really understanding that. Define your voice. So this goes back to your branding, the competitive analysis, that gap in the marketplace and how you can fill that. And then we've got consistency. Tim Grover says winning is boring. He could not be more correct. Winning is probably the most boring thing on the planet because it's really just the act of doing the same things over and over and over and over. It's consistency. Consistency really gets no glory in the successful entrepreneurship or successful small business game, but consistency is probably the #1 contributor to successful businesses. that and a little luck, right? And be sincere. So this will take you further than almost any other thing you can do as a marketing gimmick. Really just be sincere, be honest about what your product or service is, who your market is. We like to think if we build it, they will come. Not true. People have to know you're there. So that's why you need a voice. But we also like to think that everybody is my customer. Also not true. There are, how many billions of people on the planet? Not everyone is your customer, nor do you want everyone to be your customer. You want to find that tribe of people who are going to be loyal and follow you. And this piece, market to sales, is crucial to your success, long-term success as an entrepreneur. But it's not just the sales, it's all the parts and pieces that lead up to it. So you really have to build the machine. Next reason that entrepreneurs fail is over planning. So we talked about not having a plan first, right? That was the first reason we gave for why entrepreneurs fail. Well, this is a big part of why entrepreneurs fail too. It's all plan, no action. It's so bad. It's almost as bad for your business as no plan, right? So what does it look like? It's waiting for the perfect moment. You're just, we want everything to be perfect before you even start. So you haven't even started your business because you're just planning. It's the exact opposite of the person who dives in and thinks they don't need a plan at all. Or maybe you want to control every single detail. So whether it's you outsource your marketing, or you have some, part-time help, or maybe you even have a business partner early on, but you want to control everything. You want to control the voice. You want to control the plans, the marketing, all of it. Nobody has time for that, nor is it good for your business. You also hold products until they are perfect, air quote there, perfect, because you're never going to have the perfect product or service. There's always going to be people who are going to make recommendations for how it can change. There's always going to be someone who's not happy with it. And there's always going to be somebody who's going to say, hey, you could improve on this with this. But that's where the continuous improvement comes in that we talked about earlier, right? So don't go for perfect. Wow. And here is a perfect example of perfect. Look how I spelt it. I couldn't even spell it correctly. But that just goes to show you, I don't wait until everything's perfect to just go. So I'll be fixing that mistake, but obviously not for this presentation. Micromanagement is also a big part of over planning. If you were just literally controlling or telling everybody everything to do, you want to be involved in every decision, you want to be a part of everything, you have to be, it's too much. You're going to fail. Your business is going to fail. You don't have the bandwidth for that as an entrepreneur. And finally, you're owner-driven versus process-driven. So if you're curious what that is our final reason that businesses fail, that entrepreneurs fail. And owner-driven really looks like this. You're so busy working inside of your business, doing all of the things that you can't work. You're working in your business so much that you can't work on it. So you can't focus on strategy. You can't look at that long-term planning. You can't pull yourself away. You can't even take a vacation. If you are the type of entrepreneur who can't even if you take a vacation, your business ceases to function. You have not built a business. You have bought yourself a job, right? So owner-driven, we've got making connections. So if any of these resonate, then you probably have an owner-driven business. You have problems connecting with your employees or your customer because you're so busy and so in the thick of everything that you're not really connecting, you're just directing. If you've got growing pains, right? So if you're experiencing growing pains, even when you shouldn't be. So if everything seems painful, if everything takes too long, if you want to implement a new process and it takes weeks and weeks and weeks, chances are you're owner-driven and not process-driven. And then we've got losing market share. So if you're falling behind your competition, people are going to your competition to buy when they used to come to you. Chances are good, you're probably looking at an owner-driven business. Either that or your competition has suddenly created something much, much better than what you have, which is, well, it's possible, it's not likely. And everyone quits. So if you're consistently turning over your staff, if you've got vendors that don't want to work with you or consultants that don't want to work with you, owner-driven. Owner-driven is, to go from owner-driven to process-driven is the hardest turn for a small business owner or an entrepreneur to make, right? Because when you start, a lot of times it's just one or two people and you're used to doing everything yourself. So you're in the business, but you're not spending a lot of time focusing on that long-term stuff. Or if you started your business with really looking at strategy and knowing that you've got to be the doer until you can hire, you're much more well-positioned. But it's so hard for owners to start to make the transition, to carve out the time, because once you're so ingrained in the business that you're doing all of the things, it's really hard to find the time to make the transition, to start directing other people and giving other people the autonomy and the, trust to be able to do those things on their own without you being involved. And this is that most entrepreneurs say they have the want to do it. They want to make this change, but they don't take the action to make this change. This is where we see a lot of people fail, is in this bucket right here. This is the SB PACE team. There's Corey, since he couldn't join us today. And Corey's the logic and reason of SB PACE, and I am the ideas and the energy. So anything that involves math, numbers, words, that type of stuff, that's Corey. And I'm on the other side, more client facing and sales and marketing, doing the communicating, that type of stuff. And then finally, here's all of the different ways that you can find us, but really everything is on our website at sbpace.com.
Thank you so much, Julie. I love this. And this makes me reflect a lot on my own business and how I'm doing everything. This definitely makes me really rethink the whole process and everything I'm doing. And I would like to ask you, because I would be more in the category of under planning, I would say. So I take action very quickly. I don't think twice, definitely not perfect. I just move forward because this is my way of learning. But I also know that it doesn't always help. And I would like to ask you, because as you mentioned, many small businesses don't really do the strategic planning before, really to think long term. Mm-hmm. How long do you think this would take to really put everything in place, to think it through, to think also the cash flow on the long term? From your experience with your clients, how long does it take?
Well, it really depends. It depends on how much time they can carve out. So just this on the strategic planning front, the way that a nice way to approach that one is to really start thinking about it in November, if you're just going to do it like on a calendar year basis, and maybe carve out like 2 or 3 different time blocks to do it during the month of December, right? So maybe 3 2-hour sessions where you're just sitting down and you break it into smaller pieces, right? So start thinking about what are all of the first thing that we do is we always look back at how did we do this year, right? What were our wins? What were our big losses? And what did we learn from them, right? So we always do a look back to see where we can improve and just kind of take a moment to acknowledge the wins, because we're really bad about acknowledging the wins, right? We're just like, oh, what's next? So, and then breaking down, where do I want to set goals for the year? And so we'll start with the highest level goal and then just decompose them that way. And usually 3 sessions will get us through that, and we'll have a roadmap for the next year. On the cash flow piece, as you saw on the second to last slide, that's really Corey's area of expertise. But typically, to get a better grasp on cash flow, that's something that over the course of honestly like a quarter, you can really start to map out and understand. It starts with figuring out exactly where you're at today and figuring out like understanding where are the tweaks that can be made, like that so the benchmarks and understanding what are we doing today and how can we improve that? And usually you can get a good grip on that within a quarter of time. So
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Julie. And I would like to close the session by asking you a more, I would say, personal question, because you mentioned that you are more in the idea part and Corey is more into the logic part. I would like to ask you about your partnership and whether you would advise other businesses, other business owners to find a partner, whether we would need someone who complements us because we cannot know everything. How does it work for you?
So Corey's my best friend going into this, and we really like the origin story of SB Pace is so interesting in that we started SB Pace because when the pandemic started, we were both doing consulting. I was doing consulting for a Big Four firm, and all the opportunities just kind of dried up. And so we had some savings, and we thought, let's start calling our friends and family who are small business owners to see what help they need, because we both had spent years in the mergers and acquisition space with the acquisition of small businesses and helping them transition into being part of the larger corporate ecosystem. So we knew small business front to back. We come from small business families. We both had small businesses in the past. So we're passionate about it, wanting to help people. Our friends and family started telling other people to call us for help, and we thought, hey, this could actually be something. So it was kind of the accidental business. We started the business, and then, we have a tendency to dive straight into the deep end of the pool. So we thought, let's write a book at the same time. So we wrote a book on the topic, and then really just things just took off from there. But I think partnerships are great because one, you have somebody who keeps you in check. Like, I get big, crazy ideas, and he'd be like, and if he wasn't there, I would just march forward, and he'd be like, hold on, let's talk about this a little bit. Right. So he kind of keeps me in balance. And on the other side of it, he'll write a blog, and I'll be like, dude, who are you mad at when you wrote this? Because he's kind of a robot. So, he'll be like, oh, thanks for pointing that out. So the balance is good. I would say if you're going to go in with a partner, just know this, there's going to be moments where you're going to literally hate the person. You're just like, like you're the worst. So a really good operating agreement, partnership agreement is necessary, but also know that it's really important to keep in mind that the intentions are always good. You both have the same goals, and you got to talk about that on the front end. What are the goals for the business? Like we talked very early on about the fact that at some point he was going to have to step away a little bit to open the restaurant, right? So now we are in the throes of opening a restaurant while having a podcast that comes out every Tuesday and Thursday, and a live national radio show. And we have two businesses together. And so a lot more has fallen on my shoulders, but we planned for it. And it doesn't always make it easier, but at least I know we've had the conversations. I can tell him when I'm overwhelmed. He may not be able to help me, but I can tell him. And that communication is really key. So the conversations and the upfront planning are critical, I think.
I love that. Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. I believe that everyone learned a lot, including myself. I am going to also apply everything you taught us today. Thank you once again for being with me today.
Thanks for having me.